For today. I got Craig Yace out of Corona, California. How you doing, Craig?
How's it going, guys?
And my brother from another mother, Scott Benson. Scott, what's going on, buddy?
How you doing, man? I'm doing great. Another great
Doing good. It feels like I haven't talked to you in about 10 minutes.
It may have been 15. I'm kind of going through some withdrawal right now.
I think it is. We're banging these shows out one after another. We started off on the East Coast, and now we're flipped all the way over to the West Coast. As always, we start with three unique things about us, and we're going to reveal them at the end. And I know from talking to our viewers, this is one of the favorite segments there is.
Of course.
I mean, the amount of text DMs I get regarding this segment, you guys wouldn't believe. I mean, it would shock you.
It's overwhelming. I know.
I'll start. One of us has rebuilt an engine. One of us has rebuilt an engine, a V8 engine. One of us has directed a major actor in a play. I believe it's a play. We'll confirm at the end.
Well, that means it wasn't you. Okay. All right.
Or maybe I'm throwing a curveball.
Oh, you could be.
Right.
Yeah. All
Because
right.
I'm known to be, tricky like that. So the third one had their first beer at the young age of 10. And not only were they 10, they were in Germany, though. It was in Germany. And in Germany, you can have beers at 10, apparently. So
Exactly.
that being said, our viewers are on the edge waiting to the end of the show to find out who's who. So, Craig, what is going on in Corona, California today?
Well, the Corona market is rocking and rolling. I'm telling you, we have. Last week I was telling you how many homes we had on the market, and that was just single-family homes. So right now we've got 198, I think, single-family homes. Oops. I'm sorry, total in the Corona market. 198 homes on the market. This is incredible. In the last 30 days, we've sold 102 homes. So we have less than 2 months of inventory. If nothing else came on the market today and everything sold at the same rate, we'd be out of homes to sell in less than 2 months.
So do you pretty much have to be, if you're going to get has it gotten to the point where in order for a deal to be accepted, you got to be pre-qualified or you got to be a cash deal, and do you have to remove all the contingencies? Are we pretty much back to that at this point?
You can have a contingency, but to sell a home, but you need to be further down the road. In other words, you need to either have just received an offer or you need to be in escrow. And then, at best, if you've got your buyer's contingencies removed, so you can go ahead and shorten your contingencies. But on any good home or any home that's positioned or priced properly, they're gone quickly with multiple offers. So you've got to be very, very strong. Cash, shortened contingency timeframes, waive appraisals. I saw somebody, want a bid, just waiving the appraisal.
Wow. Craig, let me ask you this. How many realtors are based in Corona, California?
I honestly don't know. I think we've got close to 3,000 on our Corona Norco board.
Scott, you're good with math. We have 3,000 on the board. He's got 100 homes to sell?
198.
198. What? Give me the math on that, Scott.
That means about 6% of the realtors have a property to sell. So it's not money. It's not much.
That's just in Corona. I mean, we could look at Riverside. By the way, it's even less because we have people that come out from Orange County to sell homes here in Corona. We have people from Riverside selling homes here in Corona. So
you know what? We always say, those darn people from Orange County, right? Man.
That's true.
Craig.
Yes, sir.
As you know, this is an evolving show. And there's a lot of technology in the market these days, right? I mean, we got AI, we got all this stuff going on. Well, we're introducing to our segment some new technology. It's called screen sharing. I'm going to share my screen.
Boy, you are on the cutting edge, buddy.
Okay, yeah, we're pushing the edge. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
I can.
Okay, So I don't know why we haven't done this in the past, with the exception of I just didn't know how to do it. But just to give our viewers kind of the landscape of where Corona is. So here's Corona. Here's Anaheim, obviously, west coast of the ocean. Scott lives up kind of over down this way, right?
Yep.
So what is this, the 215 or what freeway is this right here?
Unfortunately, I'm looking on my phone because it's got the better
Oh,
camera.
I'm sorry. No, it's at 91. So 91 comes over the hill from Anaheim, and then you drop at this crossing point between 15, which goes north and south, and then 91 keeps going more towards Riverside. Okay, so this is very beneficial because I've never actually looked on a map to see exactly where you are. But now I can see geographically why Corona is so desirable, because you're just right over the hill from Anaheim.
Oh, people complain about the traffic on the freeways, and I just tell them, get a helicopter. You'll be at work in Irvine in 15 minutes.
And that's it. And you probably have room to park it. Now, I'm going to preface this. We talked earlier, Craig. I asked you about a community. You told me Eagle Glen Golf Club. So I've actually got it on the map here. And I'm going to zoom in on it a little bit. So talk to us about Eagle Glen. And by the way, everybody knows Club 80s Bar and Grill. That's Scott's favorite spot when he pulls through. Absolutely. So Craig talks about Eagle Glen Golf Club.
All right. So, well, the neighborhood of Eagle Glen, I don't remember how many homes it has. In the 18 or 2,800 range. I know that's a big range, and they're building more right now. So most of the homes that are out there are single family detached homes, good amount of land. It's a golf course community. By the way, we used to have 4 golf courses, 5 golf courses within about 5 minutes of one another. We lost one in a neighboring neighborhood, but so we still have 4 golf courses within minutes of one another. If you like golf, Corona is the place to be. But it's why I chose Eagle Glen is because without being a gated community, it is one of the cleanest and neatest neighborhoods or sets of neighborhoods that you'll be in ever. They've got an elementary school there, but if you walk the streets, like I've done some door knocking there, and you walk the streets, people just keep their lawns manicured. There's a lot of pride of ownership, a lot of good camaraderie there. It's
looks great.
Just a tight neighborhood, and there's lots of value there. So this is one of the farthest points in Corona down the 15 freeway. Yep. But one of the good things is, again, because we're so far away from, it's not super far, it's like 7 miles from like the 1591 interchange. But we're far enough away from, those major freeway interchanges and major freeway exits that we don't see homelessness. Crime is fairly low. It's usually neighborhood type of theft stuff. And again, it's just with the Cleveland National Forest being your backdrop, it is a beautiful, beautiful landscape.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see the picture on your phone, but it looks like you're right in a valley, right in between the mountains right there. It's absolutely
really, we're at the foot of the hills, so we're in the foothills.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then I also see on the map here, across the other side, I guess that'd be more east, Lake Matthews. Now, how far is Lake Matthews from Corona? Is that a place you can go water ski, fish, and stuff like that?
No, it's actually they're not using it for any recreation.
Really?
My understanding is that it feeds Orange County's water supply.
Oh,
yeah, we've got a couple of those where we've got the bodies of water where it's not for recreation, only for storage of drinking water.
So they care more about you. Well, no, because we actually feed water from Lake Mead down to you guys too, from California and Arizona. But Lake Mead, there's no shortage of recreation in there, and we already know what you find in Lake Mead, which is interesting. So I'm going to switch to Scott real quick. We did this in our earlier segment show. I pulled up Corona, California, 92883. Yeah. That's a real estate report card, Riverside County. So it's a little bit broad, but we want to look at the household formations, kind of just walk through everybody what we look at, considering is this a good place to buy from an investment standpoint or just from your primary residence.
Right, right. Well, and while you're pulling that up, because I don't see it yet, you're going to throw it up on screen, right?
Is it not on? There it
No,
is. Share the stat. There it is.
still
Okay.
looking at the map. There we go.
No.
There we go. There we go. So that there are two ways to look at properties, right? One is if you're using it as a residence, and the other if it's just a pure investment property, right? So there are some areas of California where it makes complete sense as a buyer of a residence to purchase, where it may make less sense as an investor. And so I mean, that's one of the things we're trying to look at when we compare things. But in this at this particular zip code, so if we kind of go through our list of the things that we normally look at, so the appreciation that we're seeing over the 5-year projections looks pretty good. It's up over 20%. That's what we like to see right now. And then the other thing we like to see are about 10% of the renters are able to afford to buy property in the area, because then we know we've got a nice population of locals that can buy into the property. We're a little bit under 10, but we're really close, right? So we're sitting at about 9%. So that's not bad. And then if we go down to the household formations versus the projected number of homes being built, well, this is a very, very strong indicator that there is a very firm level of support on pricing in homes that are there right now, because only about 40% of the projected household formations are going to be satisfied with the current projected number of homes that are going to be built. So that means you've got really, really strong support on the downside for home prices. So you can feel really good that you shouldn't see a lot of negative movement there. If we go down to the affordability index, and like most of California, you're going to see it severely under 100. I mean, ideally, we like to see 100. If we're looking nationally, that would be the kind of number we're looking for. But in California, you really can't find that, right? So I don't know of any zip code that we've looked at in California that's up around the 100 point, but that household formation piece plus projected appreciation. If you're comparing renting in the area to buying, this would tell me buying a property absolutely 100% makes sense. And from an affordability perspective in California, it ranks really, really well. If you're looking
median house price is only $696. I mean, that's great.
right. I mean,
Well, can I interrupt on that?
yeah, please.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is where having a local expert comes in handy, because 92883 is kind of a big area, and it does encompass Eagle Glen, which I would imagine the average house is up in the 900,000 range. And then it also goes down to what I call deep South Corona. And the values are going to be a little bit lower down there because it's so much farther away from Orange County and where jobs are. So
let's try another. Let's see another one. Let's see what the difference is.
Try 92882.
92882. Let's see if it breaks it down. Oh, house prices up. Formations are still good.
Yep.
Affordability's down the same.
Oh, you know what? If you want to look, and let's see if there's a little bit better rental thing at 92879.
92
renter situation.
92879.
Yes.
Yeah. And I can put specific address or MLS numbers too.
Yeah.
So your median house prices dropped. 645. Appreciation still 20%. That's great. Household formations is great. Affordability index is probably the same. Yep, same.
Yeah, but Craig, and this is what we always point out to people. We can so when we run an area like by zip code, this is about what we get, and it does give us a good feel for the local, the whole zip code. But what we really like is to put actual addresses in, because we get forecasted appreciation by neighborhood, and that makes such a difference in terms of the return profile on a property. And then you also have to look at the rental prices for that neighborhood versus the purchase prices, and that's where you find those little pockets of opportunity. And that's why when we're speaking with people, it's like the first thing you got to do, you got to find someone in your area that's an expert. Thus the reason we work with you in Corona. You know that market, you know where the opportunities are. You found the pockets. I mean, we're collectively working with that one client that is looking for an opportunity that cash flows right out of the gate and also meets their home living requirements. And you have found multiple properties in a tight market that met his requirements. And either he didn't move fast enough yet, or he didn't have all of his ducks in a row to actually put the deal together. So it hasn't happened. Well, I know, actually, I think you were making an offer this weekend, right?
Right. So we submitted an offer yesterday. No, no, this was a great one.
Yeah.
This house, it's a fourplex.
Right.
It was on the market. We were looking at it, just kind of preliminary, looking at the numbers, and then at the upside opportunity. And I called the agent. He said, "Hey, we're going to put it on hold because the seller is going to have an operation." I'm like, "This is great. It's now off the market. We can make an offer and potentially be the only person involved in this transaction."
Oh, that's great news then. All right.
It could be a couple of weeks before we hear back, but that's fine.
You know what? That's great because so Ted, when we've been looking for this particular client, we found a bunch, right? We found a bunch of deals, and I have to say, of all the deals that we found in terms of the amount of positive cash flow it generates for him, this property is an absolute killer, and he can put 2 more units on it after he closes out on the property. So, because I know he's got a very, very low cost of living. So I think this particular gentleman could move into this property and he could achieve his dream of retiring in his 30s and living off of his rental income, all out of this just one location. Well, and he's got a secondary rental property location too, but he's not making that much money on it. This one would do far better. So this is going to be a great deal. I hope he does it.
Yeah, me too.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift to talk about some loan programs. Craig, have we talked to you about the all-in-one loan yet?
That's different from the cake.
Much different than the cake. It's a slice of pie. If you like pie, this is like a slice of pie. It's not for everybody, but for the right person, it's the best piece of pie you can have.
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, Scott's going to dig that, and I'm going to talk about the one-time close loan.
All right, so this particular loan program, what makes it kind of cool is you combine a checking, a savings, and a home loan account all into one. So if you can imagine, if you got your W-2 employee, you've got income coming in with an auto deposit into your account, and then over the course of the month, you're paying your bills from that. Well, while every day you've got a balance in your checking account, you're probably earning a grand total of like 0.2% annualized rate of return on those dollars in your checking account, right? Well, this loan program, what it allows you to do is take that balance that's in your checking account every day, and at the end of the day, it's applied towards the principal balance on your home. So let's say hypothetically you had an average of $10,000 in your checking account. Well, your home loan would be reduced by $10,000 on average. So your interest is calculated on the lower principal balance. So if you just continue to pay at the normal rate, you end up paying off your home much, much more quickly. The other thing that's really interesting about this loan is, so let's say that the loan balance when you start is $1 million, and you just continue to pay down the property, normal payment. You're taking advantage of this reduction in principal and paying down your principal balance more quickly. And let's say you get to year 6, and you've paid down the loan to the point where you've got $1 million or $1.5 million even that's available to you in terms of this spread on your home. You could write a check, buy an investment property out of that original loan. You don't have to do any more paperwork. You don't have to do anything. You can call upon it at any time during the first 10 years. And then after you get to year 10, the amount of credit that's available to you is reduced by 1/240th every month. So on $1 million loan, it gets reduced by about $4,000 a month. But at the 10-year mark, you could also refi, and you could start the process all over again. So it's a wonderful way to lock up a credit line stream against your house without having to go through the HELOC process time and time again and reestablish credit and do everything else. It's just sitting there. And I think one of the cool things about the program is they've never had a default. They started this thing in 2007. They haven't had a single default because people end up paying their principal balance down so quickly that they're in a positive situation, even if the market turns against them. So pretty cool.
So how much down payment do you have to have?
20%.
Traditional amounts,
20%.
20% down, ideally, that's going to get you the rates, and you've got to have a decent credit score. And the other thing you have to do is you do have to go through an education process with this particular lender because it is new, and people can get a little bit, it can be a little uncomfortable when they first get into it because they're used to having a positive balance in their checking account instead of this kind of constant zero balance. But once they can get their head around that and understand that the money's there, it's available to them whenever they want to call upon it, right? It's just a much better financial structure. But it's something new for a lot of people that they haven't done. But I think of all of our loan programs, if you have a borrower that has positive cash flow, right, and they've got money moving through their accounts, it can be a tremendously positive program. So it's great.
So if you have a paycheck of $10,000 for the month,
yep,
you're saying your account's going to be zero, but that 10,000 gets applied to the principal.
Correct.
And you spend 4,500 of that on living expenses. You've paid down your principal $5,500.
Yeah, but wow. That
5,500, that's all available.
It's all available to you. So let's say next month you make that same 10 grand, but you have $15,000 worth of expenses. Well, you can pull it right back out. But for that period of time when you had it in there, your loan balance was smaller. So your principal or your interest rate is smaller. So you made your normal payment, you're paying down that principal balance much quicker because a lower percentage of the total payment goes towards interest rather than principal repayment. So,
and if I hear you right, like you said, a little time goes by, you pay that principal down a bit. The value of homes go up a little bit, so now you have this bigger spread that your home is worth more. So how do you tap into that value, or can you?
It doesn't give you that. So you have to go through a reappraisal process to get that. But if you think about it, if you buy, let's say your home is $1 million home, you put 20% down, right? So now you've got a $800,000 loan on your home, right? So over time, you pay down that loan balance down to, let's say, $500,000. So you've got that $300,000 swing that's there, and it's available for you for that full 10-year period. So you can pull it right back out and use it towards an investment property. And if you take a look in California, on average, we see a doubling of home prices within that 10-year window anyway. So, for the most part, by the time people get to that 10-year point, they could refi and significantly increase that line of credit basically that's available to them. Now, what Ted and I would probably recommend when it comes down to that is potentially a different product, because we believe pretty strongly in take that equity that you built up and then reinvest it in other rental income property. But that's for some people that not everybody wants to do that. So
what I like about this product is somebody like for you, Craig, with your income being a realtor, some months you're doing phenomenal, so you have a lot of cash flow. And you build that up. And remember, this is calculating your interest daily. So whatever your balance is daily in that account is what your interest is going to be. So maybe you have 2-3 closings and you've parked a nice set of commission checks into there. And then maybe you have a lull and you have had a couple transactions for a few months. Well, you have some flexibility on cash flow. It really could be a good loan for somebody like you who has that income that is, variable, right?
Right.
And as Scott mentioned, I think it gives you a lot of tremendous lot of flexibility. So for the right person who can understand and wrap their head around this whole process, because it's thinking out of the box, it's saying, you know what, these original loans have been around forever. And so we have in our head, 30-year fixed loan. We've never been really trained or educated to think outside the box of the possibility that, I don't have to have a 30-year fixed, and maybe I can have a loan like this, and maybe I can by parking money in there, pay off my loan a lot faster while still having that flexibility to have cash when you need it for opportunities, right?
I've got a good friend who this is probably would have been a great loan for him, and probably still would be. But back before the crash, he was every year refinancing his home, pulling $100,000 to $200,000 worth of equity out, and putting that. Don't freak out. Putting that in the stock market, and he did very, very well. Very, very well.
And you can do well, right? I mean, it can be a risky venture, but it can work out well if you do a good job in that market, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Wow, that's a great loan.
Yeah, we like it.
Now, I get the exciting opportunity to talk about the one-time closed new construction loan. So, what that is it's somebody that wants to build their dream home, and instead of having to get a construction loan and then refinance that and then get the permanent loan, it's one loan all in one. So you get your temporary financing of the construction, then it turns into your traditional 30-year fixed after that 11-month period of construction. So the one-time closed loans aren't new. It's new to UWM, and I'm talking about UWM's program. They're the largest wholesaler that we work with. And what I like about it is they take a lot of the unnecessary fees out of it. And they also do a lot of protection for the borrower in the process. They've partnered with a third-party company called Granite. And Granite is the intermediary between the contractor, the lender, and the borrower. So, Craig, if I want to get a house built, I have a contractor lined up or a builder, I have to submit them to be approved through Granite. And I have to do that each and every time. And that's important because, contractors may be good one day. Maybe they've had something happen and now they're not good. They're getting vetted each and every time that you're doing a project with them. So you're really getting protected in that process. And they're also going to manage the draw schedule. They're going to look at the plans, making sure everything's up to snuff. So it's a great way to allow, borrowers to go in and potentially lower that cost instead of having a builder build it, or like a Toll Brothers, et cetera. You can go in and say, I have my own contractor. I'm gonna pay for the construction of it and finance it that way. Now, one thing I haven't told Scott about is they look at it two ways. If you own the land already, it's a refinance. If you're buying the land and then putting the house on, it's a purchase loan. And that's really more for us on technicalities on how we set the loan up in the system. But nevertheless, it would be a refinance. If you own the land, you're paying a loan on it, then it's a refinance. You go by conforming loan limits. We can finance up to 95% of the project. So only 5% down, and you can construct your home. I did mention it was an 11-month process. The rates are standard Fannie and Freddie rates with a 0.75 hit to the rate once you qualify. So say you qualify at 6%, your final rate would be 6.75. Let's see. It kind of covers the overall process of it. There's some fees every time you do, a draw. There's a little fee for them to, look at the project, small stuff like that. Underwriting fees a little bit more. It's like $14.95 versus like say like a $9.95. But I mean, these are a lot smaller than you would see if you were doing other construction loans. When you're doing, the fees can be pretty heavy.
And what's the final rate? Do you lock it in when you get the loan, or do you lock it in after you complete construction?
No, you lock it in prior.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
So,
and you know what? In that 0.75 hit, if you compare it to if you go through the normal construction loan process and then do the conversion, it's a much less expensive option to look at. Now, I will say, if you're going to be in the home and you're going to keep the loan for like 12 years, well, then you may want to refi out of it even at, just to save that 0.75 rate. But if you're not going to be in it for a very extended period of time, it's a big time winner.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's an awesome loan. So this is a unique show because we've heard about two loan products in this show.
that's it.
We also heard about a little bit more details in what's going on in the market, and I forgot to mention this part of it. Remember, we had 198 homes on the market in Corona.
Yeah,
there are 190 homes in escrow. That's pretty exciting. It's the same amount practically of homes are going into escrow as are hitting the market.
That's crazy. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That means a lot of great activity. I can't wait to see what's going to happen later in the spring. You know, when traditionally so many homes come on the market, it's going to be exciting to see, you know, what the flow looks like.
Right. Yep.
Well, so,
Got
you know, all of our listeners, we need to let them know. You need to reach out to Craig. If you're thinking about putting up your home, putting it on the market this summer, you need to talk to him. You need to start getting things prepared so he can get you ready. And if you're a buyer, you need to talk to all of us because we need to get you prepped on the pre-qualification side. So you go in as a really, really strong buyer. You need to talk to Craig and tell him what you need because the homes are going quick. So
Yep.
got to keep his eyes on the market for you and set up some automation so you make sure you're informed every step of the way. So
yeah, we've got to be watching the market and we've got to be ready to act when we find the right home, which means financing's got to be in place. It doesn't cost you anything. Might as well do it.
No, and it, you know what, you got to do the process anyway. You got to collect the paperwork, you got to go through it, so you might as well just have it all lined up. And then, you know, then it also, there was a borrower we were all collectively working on, and he had to get some documentation from his employer, and the employer was a little bit slow turning it around, but it wasn't a big deal because it was a pre-qualification process, right? But if he was trying to close on a loan and he had 3 weeks to get this deal done, and he's sweating it out, waiting for the employer to come up with the docs, you know, that's horrible. That's a horrible position.
I actually just represented a seller, and you know, we got multiple offers on this home, and the buyer that we chose seemed to have their stuff in line. But when I did a cross qualification, which I always recommend to my sellers, and when we did the cross qualification, you know, the documentation, it took 4 or 5 days to get it over. That always tells me that they were not ready. And honestly, the way we structured the counteroffer, we weren't locked in until and unless we got the thumbs up on that cross qualification. So we said, look, we need it by tonight, midnight. If it doesn't come in, we're moving on to the next buyer. We did.
Yeah, that's so smart, but that's because you've got time in the market, right? Most people wouldn't think about doing that, but that's a really important piece. So that's
I get people, you know, we all know what we know, right? And we all think we know what we know. And sometimes you might know something that doesn't line up to you know, the boots on the ground truth, right? And yeah, I've recommended to many people, and at this point in my career, I won't take somebody out unless they're pre-approved.
right.
Or at least unless I've had a lender look at their information and say, okay, go for it, right? So you guys did that with Dan, with this client. Anyway, and you said, hey, everything looks good, Craig. It's not a pre-approval, but at this point, I feel confident if all of this checks out that we're going to be good. And he was getting you the documents, right?
He was actually doing a good job with that. So
he was on top of things. Now, if I've got somebody who says, no, it's fine, I don't want to go through that process yet, I'm going to encourage them to do it. I'm going to tell them why. And the reason why is because if you do find that home, and it happens all the time, you know, you could be watching the market, you know, sporadically for a while, and you're like, nothing really tickled my fancy. And the minute you start really thinking about it, and you're looking at it daily, oh my gosh, that's my dream home. What do I need to do to get it? Well, I told you 2 weeks ago, you needed to be pre-approved, and you didn't do that. So I can put an offer in, but I have to have pre-approval. I have to have proof of funds. And, you know, you're not going to get it without those things.
especially not in today's market, right? No, it's not going to happen. So
not in front of California.
No, sellers can be picky. So
all right, guys. Oh, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, but Scott, to your point, you know, that may work in another market. It might be okay in another market, but here in Southern California, and it's the only market I know, here in Southern California, it doesn't work. And I've been doing this for 20 years. It's always been this way, even in a slower market where we might have 5 or 6 months worth of inventory. You still need to have your ducks in a row.
It's only smart. It's only smart because, you know, homes here are expensive and it's hard for a lot of people to qualify. So it's important that people go through the process so the sellers know you're real. It's just that's just part of the game. So, Ted, I know you're dying. I know you're
No,
dying.
it's not me that's dying. It's our viewers. We're at 35-minute mark.
Well,
We had so much great stuff to talk about. We flew through our half hour. We're in overtime. People are excited and on the edge of their seat to know
Yes, they are.
yeah,
who's what. So, who had a beer at 10 years old in Germany?
that'd be me. That'd be me. So, my mom, and she's always encouraged me to drink from a very early age. So she
And I know your mom's visiting right now. Is she listening?
yeah, she's downstairs. So she probably
Okay. She's
right now.
getting your beer ready for you?
Yeah. So my mom is German. We went back to Germany to go see some family, which was absolutely awesome. And I was in the Black Forest, and they had the Black Forest Beer Festival, and had a beer, and it was warm, which that's how they did it. That's how I had it, and it's all been downhill since then. So my beer drinking problem was all because of my mom. But yeah, that's it. That was my first beer.
All right. Who directed a major actor, and was it in a play?
It was in a play, and that would be me, of course. And it was Cuba Gooding Jr.
Oh wow!
Yep. And it was in high school, so it wasn't while he was a major actor.
You set the tone for his career under your direction.
You got to
guided him to be this amazing actor, Craig.
I really wish that were the case, but it's not.
I bet he thinks back, and every time he wins an award, he thanks you on that, and remembers those days of your direction.
Right.
Okay, my not so great story. It was I was in 92. I was just out of high school. I had a 1979 Trans Am, just like Burt Reynolds. His was I think 76, and Smoking the Bandit. The T-tops, everything. Blew the engine out, and I had a friend, Mike. Mike is his American name. He's from Poland. His shop was A to Z Automotive. And so I worked at A to Z Automotive, and instead of getting a paycheck, I worked in the day, I worked as a waiter at night, went to school. I would work off the cost to rebuild my engine, but I got the ability to rebuild a V8 engine from the ground up. So
Cool.
I did it. I put the bigger cams. I did all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it didn't work. It sucked. But I did learn how to do it.
You could have been somebody.
But the good thing is, during this process of telling the story, I did not come into my mind the one thing that is going to stand out to you guys at the very end here. I actually had a Polish name. They call me Tadeusz. So, for the Real Estate Mortgage Insiders, Craig Yace, Scott Benson, and I'm Tadeusz.